Welcome to the For All e-learning platform. For those of you who are on other platforms, you can join us at tefaafrique.com. I am Gong Brian Lang and I will be taking you on the course outline for biology, that's in the medicine concours. In the general introduction, we see that the medicine's entrance examination usually consists of multiple choice questions in biology, chemistry, physics, general knowledge, and French language or English. Considering the nature of this entrance exam into medical schools in Cameroon, this platform aims at providing the necessary study aids, video courses, reviewed past questions, a document note, sample questions from other great medical schools, follow-up and counseling, and also to familiarize the student with multiple choice questions and required techniques for the different entrance exams. The different topics in biology will have introduction to the human body, levels of organization, that's the chemical, the cellular and the tissue level. We'll have the integumentary system. We'll have bone tissue, the skeletal system, articulations, muscle tissue, nervous tissue, where we'll talk of the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. We'll have the sensory, motor and integrative systems. We'll have spatial senses, the endocrine system, the hematopoietic system, the cardiovascular system, the lymphatic system, the respiratory system, the digestive system, metabolism, urinary system, fluid electrolyte and acid-base homeostasis, the reproductive system, development and inheritance, evolution and natural selection, transport in plants and photosynthesis, enzymology, medical imaging, health and diseases, and genetic engineering. Looking at the introduction to the human body, we will have some definitions. We'll talk of simple life processes, that's growth and other life processes. We'll talk of homeostasis, which is the maintenance of a constant internal environment in the body. We'll talk of different anatomical terms. We'll look at the different planes and sections of the body, the regions and quadrants of the body, the measure systems of the human body, and we'll have some directional terms. At the level of organization, we will look at the chemical level, where we'll talk of matter and energy. We'll talk of chemical compounds and life processes. We'll talk of inorganic compounds. At the cellular level of organization, we will look at a generalized animal cell. We'll look at movement of materials across membranes and the cell cycle. At the tissue level, cell junctions, tissue repairs and restoring homeostasis. In the third chapter, we will look at the integumentary system, where we'll talk of the skin and its different layers, the epidermal derivatives, that's one layer of the skin and homeostasis, that's the relationship between skin and homeostasis. We'll also talk of the diseases of the integumentary system. We'll also look at the bone tissue, where we'll talk of the functions of the bone, the structure of the bone, histology of the bone, that's the constituents of the bone. We'll look at the relationship between exercise and bone tissue. We'll look at the relationship between aging and the bone tissue. We'll also look at homeostatic imbalances, those are diseases. In the skeletal system, we'll talk of the axial skeleton, where we will look at types of bones, division of the skeletal system, disorders, homeostatic imbalance, abnormal curves, and we'll also look at the appendicular skeleton. The appendicular skeleton consists of the upper limb, the pelvic girdle, the pectoral girdle, the lower limb, and other bones. We'll also look at some differences between the female and male skeletal system. In articulations, we will talk of classification of joints. That's structural classification, the functional classification. We'll talk of factors affecting movement of joints. In the muscle tissue, we will talk of the types of muscle tissues. We'll talk of the function of muscle tissues, the anatomy of muscle tissues, innervation, muscle contraction, cardiac muscle tissue, that's the muscle tissues in the heart. We'll look at the relationship between aging and muscle tissues. We'll look at muscle tissue regeneration, and we'll conclude with the principal features of muscle tissues. In the nervous tissue, we'll look at the histology of the nervous tissue. We'll look at neurophysiology, that's physiology of the nervous tissue. We'll look at regeneration of the nervous tissue, and we'll talk of the different disorders and homeostatic imbalances. Under the nervous system, we'll look at the central nervous system, where we'll talk of the brain and cranial nerves, the principal parts of the brain, functions of the brain, neurotransmitters, and cranial nerves. We'll look at aging and the nervous system. We'll look at developmental anatomy of the nervous system, and we'll look at some mnemonics of the different nerves, that's the cranial nerves. Talking of the spinal cord, we'll talk of protection and coverage, physiology, reflex arc and homeostasis, and spinal nerves. In the sensory, motor, and integrative system, we'll talk of sensation, talk of somatic senses and somatic pathways. We'll look at integration of the different senses and integrative functions. Then we'll look at the homeostatic imbalances that are linked to the sensory, motor, and integrative system. We'll also look at the spatial senses, where we'll talk of the olfactory sensation, the gustatory sensation, visual sensation, auditory sensation, and equilibrium. Then we'll look at disorders of the spatial senses. Under the endocrine system, we'll see nervous, the difference between the nervous and the endocrine system. We'll see hormones. We'll see mechanism of hormone action. We'll see control of hormonal secretions. We'll look at the different glands of the body, that's the hypophysis, pituitary, pancreatic, and so on. We'll look at aging and the endocrine system, and we'll look at the developmental anatomy. Here also we'll look at all the different homeostatic imbalances of the different glands and the endocrine system as a whole. In the hematopoietic system, we will look at the extracellular fluids, the functions of blood, components of blood, characteristics of blood, formation of blood cells, blood groups and blood types, clotting, and other homeostatic imbalances. In the cardiovascular system, we will look at the heart in general. We will talk of circulation overview, the location and size of the heart. We will look at general circulation, conduction systems, and pacemakers that are found in the heart. We will look at the physiology of the contraction of the heart. We will look at an electrocardiogram, where we will be able to interpret the electrocardiogram. We will look at the different heart diseases. We will look at the relationship between exercise and the cardiovascular system. Then we will look at the developmental anatomy of the heart. At the level of the blood vessels and hemodynamics, still under the cardiovascular system, we'll look at anatomy of the blood vessels, capillary exchange, physiology of circulation. We'll look at blood pressure control and blood flow. We'll look at shock and homeostasis. We'll look at checking circulation. We'll look at the circulatory routes, the different circulatory routes. We'll look at the relationship between aging and the cardiovascular system. once more, and we'll see disorders. Under the lymphatic system, we'll look at lymphatic circulation and vessels, developmental anatomy, non-specific resistance, immunity, aging and the immune system, and we'll look at the different disorders of the lymphatic system. Under the respiratory system, we'll see the different structures that form the respiratory system. We'll insist on the pulmonary ventilation. We'll look at lung volumes and capacities, the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide, that's through the lungs. We'll look at control of respiration, and we'll end up with exercises and respiratory system. Under the digestive system, we'll look at an overview of the digestive system, the layers of the GI tract, that's the gastrointestinal tract, that's the gut, the different digestive organs, digestive hormones, developmental anatomy of the digestive system, and we'll look at the disorders that are linked to the digestive system. Under metabolism, we'll look at regulation of food intake, metabolism as a whole, energy production. We'll look at carbohydrate metabolism, protein metabolism, and lipid metabolism. We'll look at the absorptive and post-absorptive states. We'll look at nutrition and calories, and we'll see the different disorders that are linked to metabolism. Under the urinary system, we'll look at the kidneys, the renal physiology, production of urine in the kidneys, evaluation of the kidney function, developmental anatomy and evolution of the kidney, the ureters, the urethra, the bladder. We'll look at urinalysis, that's a technique. We'll look at aging, and we'll look at the different disorders of the urinary system. Under fluid, electrolyte and acid-base homeostasis, we'll look at fluid compartments, fluid balance, electrolytes in body fluids, and concentration of the different solutions. Under the reproductive system, we will look at the male reproductive system as a whole, the female reproductive system. We'll also look at the female reproductive cycle, the human sexual response. We'll look at birth control. We'll talk of the relationship between aging and the reproductive system, and we'll look at the different homeostatic imbalances of the reproductive system. Under developmental and inheritance, we will look at development during pregnancy, embryonic development, hormones of pregnancy. We will look at gestation. We will talk on labor. We will also look at adjustments of infant during birth. We will look at lactation, that's the physiology of lactation. We'll look at inheritance, and we'll see the different disorders that are linked to development and inheritance. Under evolution and natural selection, we'll look at history of ideas of life on Earth. We'll look at the theory of evolution, and we'll look at speciation. Under transport in plants and photosynthesis, we'll look at transport system in plants, water transport in plants, factors affecting transpiration, mineral ion transport, and solute transport in plants. We'll also look at the different processes involved in photosynthesis and the different reactions. Under enzymology, we'll look at the generalized structure of an enzyme. We'll also see how enzyme works. We'll look at the different factors that affect enzyme reaction, and we'll look at enzyme kinetics. Under medical imaging, we'll look at the different medical imaging procedures like radiography, magnetic resonance imaging, computed tomography, ultrasound scanning, ecography, positron emission tomography, endoscopy, scintigraphy, and so on. Under health and diseases, we will define health and define diseases according to the World Health Organization. We will look at the different categories of diseases. Thus, we will look at the degenerative diseases, mental disorders, non-infectious diseases, infectious diseases, deficiency, common terms used to describe diseases, and we will also look at the Human Genome Project. Under genetic engineering, we will look at the different techniques involved in genetic engineering and the different applications of genetic engineering. We'll look at energy flow and nutrient cycle, where we'll talk of the different trophic levels in an ecological system. We'll talk of the transfer of energy between trophic levels. We'll talk of the different pyramids in ecology, and we'll look at the nutrient cycles in the environment. Thank you for listening, and you can join us at tefaafrique.com. Thank you.